The coffee in Margaret's hands had gone cold an hour ago, but she barely noticed. Her eyes remained fixed on the security camera feed streaming across her computer monitor in the quiet darkness of her executive office, and what she saw there was slowly shattering the carefully constructed walls around her heart. Her 7-year-old son, Tommy, was sitting in the school's aftercare room, and he was crying, not the loud, demanding tears of a child who wanted attention, but the quiet, broken sobs of a little boy who felt utterly alone in the world. Margaret's throat tightened as she watched him sitting by the window, chin trembling, shoulders hunched inward as if he could make himself disappear from the world that had already taken so much from him. If you believe that kindness and second chances can change lives, please like this video, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Every single one of you watching matters, and your support means everything to us. Thank you. Margaret had built her empire from nothing, a woman who clawed her way up from poverty, who sacrificed everything to become the youngest CEO of Meridian Industries, who made the headlines and the business magazines. But somewhere along the way, between the board meetings and the shareholders and the relentless climb to the top, she had forgotten the most important thing: her son needed her. The guilt was suffocating. Tommy's father had walked out 3 years ago, leaving Margaret to carry the weight of both roles, and while she provided him with every material comfort imaginable, the best schools, the finest tutors, designer clothes, she couldn't seem to give him the one thing he truly needed: her presence. Her time. Her love. The security camera system had been installed at the aftercare facility just last month after an incident with some missing items. Margaret had activated her administrator access out of habit, out of that controlling need to monitor everything in her carefully organized world. She didn't expect to stumble upon this, didn't expect to see her baby falling apart while she was 30 stories up in a glass office, making deals that would never matter to him. As she continued watching, a shadow moved into frame. It was Marcus, the school's janitor, a tall, quiet man with kind eyes that Margaret had barely noticed in passing during her rushed pickups. She'd never given him more than a polite nod, had never considered his life or his story. He was just part of the infrastructure of the school, invisible in the way service workers often are to people like her. But what happened next would change everything Margaret thought she knew about human nature and the measure of a person's worth. Marcus approached Tommy slowly, his movements deliberate and gentle. He didn't try to force the boy to stop crying or offer hollow platitudes. Instead, he sat down beside him on the small plastic chair that looked almost comical under his frame, making himself small to meet Tommy where he was. Margaret leaned closer to her screen, watching as Marcus produced something from his pocket, a small wooden figure, intricately carved into the shape of a little knight. Tommy's crying began to slow as Marcus started to speak, his deep voice just barely audible through the camera's microphone. Marcus told Tommy a story about a knight who felt lonely because he thought nobody understood him, because he felt different from all the other knights in the kingdom. But then, the story went, this knight met a wizard who showed him that being different wasn't a weakness, it was actually a superpower. The knight realized that his unique way of seeing the world made him special, made him capable of understanding people that others couldn't reach. By the time Marcus finished the story, Tommy had stopped crying entirely. The boy was looking up at the janitor with wide, wondering eyes, as if someone had just handed him the keys to understanding himself. Over the next 20 minutes, Marcus didn't just sit there. He engaged Tommy in conversation, asking about his favorite things, his dreams, what made him happy. He listened, truly listened, in a way that Margaret realized with a crushing sense of shame she hadn't done in months. She watched her son's face transform. The darkness lifted. A small smile appeared. Then actual laughter, genuine, joyful laughter that echoed through the aftercare room and pierced directly through Margaret's chest. Marcus carved figures with Tommy, telling him each one was a guardian that would watch over him and keep him safe. He promised to make him a whole collection, one for each day of the week, and Tommy's face lit up with pure, uncomplicated joy. By the time the session ended, Tommy was hugging Marcus, holding those carved figures like they were the most precious treasures in the world. Margaret sat frozen in her office for a long time after the feed ended. She couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't process what she had just witnessed. A janitor, a man she had never truly seen, had shown her son more love and understanding in 30 minutes than she had managed to show him in months. The realization was devastating and clarifying all at once. All her success meant nothing if her child felt invisible and alone. All her power and money and prestige couldn't fix what only a human connection could heal. That night, Margaret did something she hadn't done in years. She came home early from work. She sat down with Tommy at the dinner table and really looked at him, not the distracted glance she usually offered while checking emails on her phone, but truly saw him. Tommy seemed confused at first, as if his mother had suddenly become a stranger. But gradually, as Margaret asked him questions and actually waited for his answers, as she listened without interrupting or planning her next task, something beautiful began to happen. The walls between them started to crumble. When Margaret finally asked Tommy about his day, about the aftercare room, his entire face brightened. He told her about Marcus with such enthusiasm and gratitude that Margaret understood the full magnitude of what this man had done. She realized something fundamental in that moment. The world doesn't measure a person's value by their salary or their title or the size of their office. True greatness, real nobility, comes from the simple act of seeing someone who feels invisible and choosing to show them they matter. The next morning, Margaret made an unprecedented decision. She walked into the school's administrative office and asked for Marcus's personal information. Then she did something that shocked everyone in her company. She requested a meeting with him, not in her office, but over coffee at a small cafe near the school. When Marcus arrived, confused and nervous, Margaret simply thanked him. She told him what she had witnessed on the camera, and she watched his face flush with embarrassment at being recognized for his kindness. But Margaret wasn't finished. She had spent her entire career making power moves that impressed shareholders. This was different. This was the most important move she would ever make. She offered Marcus a position in her company, not as janitorial staff, but as a counselor in her employee assistance program. She saw something in his ability to connect with people, to understand pain and loneliness, that no business degree could teach. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of human kindness and second chances, please engage with this video. Leave a comment, share your own story of unexpected kindness, and let us know how this touched you. Marcus accepted, and as Margaret watched him walk away with tears in his eyes, she understood something crucial. Her son hadn't needed a more successful mother. He had needed a present one. And sometimes, it takes a stranger's kindness to show us what matters most. Tell us in the comments, what act of kindness has changed your life?